Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women of Grace. I'm Johnette Williams. It's an Up Close and Personal with Dr. Monica Miller, founder of Citizens for a Pro-Life Society and champion for both babies in the womb and their mothers. Her compelling pro-life exploits have taken her from dumpsters to jail cells, from sidewalks to courtrooms. Author of Abandoned, The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars and the Authority of Women in the Catholic Church, today she'll tell us about the genesis of her pro-life activism and her current concern for life following the reversal of Roe versus Wade. I first met Dr. Monica Miller following the publication of her book, The Authority of Women in the Catholic Church. I knew then that she was fearless. In it, she took on the whole premise of radical feminism and turned it on its head. So I was not surprised to discover she was a champion for the unborn and their mothers, going to great lengths to preserve their dignity as human beings made in the image and likeness of God. Though years have intervened since that first meeting, Dr. Miller has remained steadfast in her pursuits. I'm happy to have her here with me today to talk about her call and mission, both to the baby in the womb and to their mothers in the wake of the overturn of Roe versus Wade. Let's welcome Dr. Monica Miller, a teacher of theology at Sacred Heart Seminary in Detroit and founder of Citizens for a Pro-Life Society. Her books, Abandoned, The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars and The Authority of Women in the Catholic Church, are available for you at EWTN's Religious Catalog. Just go to EWTNRC.com to order. Monica, welcome, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So good to be with you.
Well, thanks. I'm so happy to have you here, to have a chance to talk with you one-on-one about what it is that you've been up to for the majority of your adult life. You know,
Right.
And that's a big time. But I really want to thank you for both of these books, and I want to thank you personally for them. This book, The Authority of Women in the Catholic Church, really comes from a bigger text.
Right, the sexuality and authority in the Catholic
Church, right. And I had the great privilege of studying that book with you. And boy, I'll tell you, I still go back to the lessons that you taught and the notes that I took, and the underlying...
You were a very good student.
Well, thank you. Well, you were a very good teacher. You know, and when we understand who woman is, when we truly understand who she is, it just makes us sit up very tall. Not in a prideful stance, but in a humble stance that God has gifted us, you know, with such a splendid reality.
Yeah, given us a great dignity.
A great dignity, and that's why it's so sad to see what it is that's happening to women because of the mindset of our country and radical feminism. You have been an advocate for pro-life. Roe v. Wade was passed in 1973. I remember that moment. And since 1976, 3 years later, you got involved. And when I say involved, I mean, you know, just covered up in pro-life activism.
Yeah, I was a college student at Southern Illinois University, and I went on a retreat, and which I talk about in my book, at the Newman Center, and I think it was during Holy Week of 1976. And on the retreat, there was a woman there named Shirley Parks. Nobody knows who Shirley Parks is, but she was very important in my life. So she was involved in something called the pro-life movement. I had not even heard of such a thing until that moment. What is a pro-life movement, right? Well, you know, it turns out, of course, that she was involved in you know, being against abortion and working to reestablish the right to life for the unborn. So I palled around with Shirley. Shirley took me to meetings. She gave me good books to read. So she initiated me into the movement. And one of the books that she gave me that really, really made a huge impression was Abortion and Social Justice. It was published before Roe versus Wade in 1972, though you know that several states, unfortunately, had already removed legal protection. California, Colorado, New York, Rhode Island, Hawaii. Those are the ones off the top of my head. So the book was an anthology, and it was put together by Hilgers and Horan. Thomas Hilgers.
Yes, right.
Yes, of the exactly,
and
Natural Family Planning Physician, right.
Yeah.
There was a chapter in the book by a physician named Bart Heffernan, and it was called The Early Biography of Every Man. And it was a detailed trip through fetal development. It just opened my eyes. I mean, I was against abortion, Johnette. I mean, I don't have a radical conversion story. I was raised Catholic. Abortion, I just knew this can't be right. But that chapter taught me that the unborn child is a personal someone, okay, in relation to me. Not just a fetus or, some, abstract idea that there's life in the womb, but a personal someone. And then I moved to Chicago to get my master's degree in theology. And I met a very tall, blue-eyed man named Joseph Scheidler. And again, a lot of viewers might not even know who I'm talking about. He died, Joe Scheidler died at the age of 93, January 18th of 2021. Mm-hmm. I met him when I was 24 years old. And that man had such a huge, huge influence on my development as a pro-lifer. And he's the one that basically turned me into an activist. So I can say that Joseph Scheidler is pretty much responsible for my life of crime. Okay. The day I met him, he was the executive director of the Illinois Right to Life Committee. And another woman who also was very helpful in getting me involved in the pro-life movement, mentioned in my book, Marcita Hecht. And she invited me to go to a pro-life meeting in downtown Chicago. I really had no idea exactly, well, it's just a pro-life meeting, whatever. We get on the L train, we get downtown, we get to the building where Illinois Right to Life had its offices in this vintage 1920s Monadnock building. And it was it turned out it was a meeting to plan a sit-in.
Oh.
And so again,
sit-ins were very popular in the 60s and 70s.
Sit-ins, right. And it was going to be at an abortion clinic, and Joe Scheidler was organizing it. And when time came during the meeting well, who's willing to risk arrest? I put up my hand immediately because I don't know.
Did you astonish yourself?
Because I'm a maniac. No, I'm a maniac. Well, look, what excuses did I have, really?
Yeah.
I was getting a degree in theology. I was unmarried. I didn't have any children. I was, if I was going to do it, this is the time. And it just made sense to me. If my life was being immediately threatened, wouldn't I want somebody to stand between me and the assailant? Mm-hmm. Of course, at least that much. Stand between me and the assailant and defend me. And so it was an act of defense, so I participated in that sit-in. And then, even when I use the terminology sit-in, it kind of already dates what we were doing, because this was 1978. Mm-hmm. So this was before the advent of Operation Rescue, and then using the biblical terminology from Proverbs 24:11, rescue those who are being dragged off to the slaughter, and so on. So this was before the rescue movement really took off, but I was in on it very early in the early days.
One of the things that fascinates me, just in putting the dates together, is that in 1973, Roe v. Wade happens. Abortion becomes a federally protected right underneath the Privacy Clause of the 14th Amendment. There was some kind of verbal jerry-rigging that went on there to make that happen, because it never anticipated that when it was talking about privacy. But anyway, that's what was used. But already in '76 now, you're talking about a pro-life movement. Mm-hmm. That Shirley introduced you to. Yes. So very quickly, I mean, in other words, when we look at the efforts for life, it began almost immediately with Roe versus Wade.
Actually, Johnette, there's a fascinating book called The Defenders of Life, the pro-life movement before Roe v. Wade.
Wow, okay.
It's a fantastic book. Oxford University Press put this thing out, and I think the author is Daniel Williams. I have a review of it in Crisis magazine. What a fascinating read, because as I said a few minutes ago, already legal protections were being removed
Right.
from unborn children, and the American Bar Association had already put together model legislation to repeal these laws that protected unborn children. So, in fact, the Illinois Right to Life Committee, if I'm not mistaken, may be one. I think it was founded in 1969. So already anticipating that we got a big problem on our hands.
Well, and you know, and of course, and I just want to say that, you know, when you go back and you look at this thing historically, as we're kind of doing this little retrospective here on it, yeah, I mean, you realize that this whole business with regard to abortion and all that's come forth from it was very carefully marketed. I mean, you know, sometimes we're surprised by where are these things
carefully marketed.
But it's carefully.
There was the opening.
It's curated.
They opened up the pathway to legalizing abortion on demand for any reason. That's what abortion on demand means. By emphasizing hard cases.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
The hard cases, and there was this very famous hard case that really propelled those who wanted to advance a woman's quote-unquote right to abortion, and it was her last name was Finkbein, and she was, I wish I could remember her first name, it would probably come to me, but she had ingested thalidomide during her pregnancy.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Was this the woman that went to Sweden?
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
and
all right.
she was the hostess for an afternoon children's program called Romper Room.
Oh, my word.
She was one of the hostesses.
Yeah, right. There was a different one in every
I mean,
city.
they came and went. But so, Sherry Finkbein. And so this was a cause célèbre, and
yes,
and she couldn't get her abortion. Well, why would she want one? Thalidomide babies, and I don't know what thalidomide was treating, you know, but in any case, caused babies to lose their limbs. Okay, they would be quote unquote normal in every other respect. It didn't cause brain damage, not that I know of. But babies would be born with maybe no feet, no arms, and so on. Monsters, okay, which is terrible to even say that, right? She didn't want that kind of baby.
Right.
She couldn't get the abortion in the state where she lived. Or maybe at that point, this was in the 1950s, so maybe it was really very difficult for her to abort this baby, so she went to Sweden. So it was but this was one of the issues. We need abortion for these very terrible,
very hard cases.
Yeah, it opened
well,
up the door.
thalidomide was a terrible drug, and I think, you know, I'm not positive about this, but I think that it was given to women because of morning sickness, is what I think that was.
Oh, it could be. Yeah.
And so, but they didn't realize what was happening. Then, of course, as soon as they realized what was happening, these children were being born, and they were being born
with birth defects.
Then, of course, that was all reversed, but the damage had been done. But I can remember very specifically being a little girl, and I can remember very specifically sitting in the living room, and I can picture it right now because it was one of those things that even when you're wee young, it impresses. And I remember the coverage, the news coverage of this woman. I remember that, you know, they got off of an air. I mean, I was watching this on television, and I don't know why. My mother must have been ironing or something, but there I was. And I remember so very specifically that they walked off the plane, the camera was on them, she was leaning on her husband's. I mean, I remember it so vividly, right?
Wow.
And the reporter was talking about abortion and pregnancy, and these were words I didn't know as a little girl.
Sure.
But what I understood, what I was able to cobble together in my little girl brain, was that this woman had a baby in her body, and she got rid of that baby. And I can remember the sinking feeling in my stomach when I watched that. And the thought that came to me is, I'm glad my mommy didn't do that.
Oh, Johnette.
I mean, no, seriously. You know, and as I sit here on this set, as I say, even describing it to you, I can see it vividly. I can see the television, I can see all of it. But anyway, all that being said, no good law comes by way of hard cases. You know, that's one of
So yeah, so now we're going to exterminate
exceptions.
98% of completely
That's
healthy
right.
babies
And
because of a hard case.
right,
Yeah.
right. And this is the problem, right? But it's much deeper than that. We've got to go to a break. When we come back, I want for you to share with our viewers today about the, you know, the tremendous lengths that you went to give these children who were aborted dignity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing, Monica. Well, friends, there's more to come after the break. I only wish that we had, like, 24 hours, but we don't. But I do want to send you out to EWTN's religious catalog, because everything that we're talking about today, for the most part, except for my story, is in Monica's book, Abandoned: The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars. It's it's a book that you... It's a must read. I'm just going to leave it at that. I also want you ladies out there, and you gentlemen too, to know how terrific this beautiful gift of femininity is and how wonderfully, authentically lived it can be. And you can do that by reading Monica's book, The Authority of Women in the Catholic Church. It too is available for you. This is where you take on radical feminism. Woohoo!
Well, sexuality and authority in the
Yes.
Catholic Church.
There you go. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back, friends. We're visiting with our guest today, Dr. Monica Miller. She's the author of 2 books that I'm going to hold up for you right now, and I really want you to get them out there at EWTN's religious catalog. EWTNRC.com is the website. You can order this book. It's an absolutely compelling read. It is called Abandoned: The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars. It's available for you there. In addition to that, her book, The Authority of Women in the Catholic Church, is also available for you there. Both excellent books for you to have. And really, to study in a certain way. They're just marvelous. Want to remind you to go out to our website, womenofgrace.com. We're featuring programs that we did with Dr. Monica on her book, Abandoned: The Story of the Abortion Wars. And we want for you to watch those. Monica, you couldn't imagine when you were a young woman of 24 years old that this, activism for which you were raising your hand would lead you to jail more than one time, one time for 9 months, and would also lead you to the back of abortion mills and finding there in trash cans and dumpsters the bodies of these children who had been aborted.
Yeah, and it's not written in our mission statement for Citizens for a Pro-Life Society. I was, if I can, this may be a weird thing to say, but it kind of in the right place at the right time. And Joe Scheidler, who I mentioned already, had discovered that the Michigan Avenue Medical Center, which ironically I did a lot of sidewalk counseling at. It's right on Michigan Avenue. It's just a block down from the very famous Art Institute of Chicago. That the abortion clinic was putting the bodies of the aborted babies in the trash dumpster in the alley behind the clinic. And so beginning in February of 1987, we made, again, I talk about it in my book. In fact, it's the first chapter. That we went to the alley, we went to the dumpster, and sure enough, we came out with this box, and we took it to Joe Scheidler's garage. He lived in Chicago on the north side, and it contained the remains of about 40 aborted babies. So I know what they look like. And I spent a lot of time with the dead, if you will. I mean, we had to put them somewhere, and the box was in my closet for a while, but while we were planning the burial, draped with a rosary and a holy card, my friend Edmund, who eventually we got married, but we're still friends, but he joined me in the the going to the trash dumpster. And so this was basically a project, if you will, between the Pro-Life Action League, which was Joe Scheidler's group in Chicago, and our group, Citizens for a Pro-Life Society. I, at that time, was already in Milwaukee studying for my PhD. But in any case, I had so many connections with Chicago, so I would make it was only half an hour away, I mean, an hour and a half away, so it's not that big a deal. But in any case, at the end of the searches, we had about 600 bodies, and they're buried at St. Mary's Cemetery in Evergreen Park, Illinois. And here's the thing, Johnette. I thought, okay, well, I'm done with this. Now I'm onto more conventional pro-life work, okay? And the very next year, again, the pro-lifers in Chicago, they were told by an employee, an anonymous employee of the Vital Med Pathology Lab in Northbrook, Illinois. It was an anonymous phone call that went into a guy that ran a crisis pregnancy center. You pro-lifers, you could do something. There are fetuses left out on our loading dock. You could come and get them. So apparently this employee was having a pang of conscience about it, right? So this started our trek to this industrial park in Northbrook, Illinois, where the Vital Med lab was located, and it started in February of 1988 and went all the way through the month of October of 1988, at the end of which we had retrieved 5,000 plus bodies of aborted babies, and we did not get them all.
Oh, Monica.
And the thing is, why were they there? Why were they on this loading dock in the middle of an industrial park in Northbrook, Illinois? Well, first of all, they were left out for trash disposal. In fact, some of the boxes even had scrolled in a magic marker, "for disposal." And there was a string of abortion clinics called the WHO clinics, Women Health Organization clinics. It was like a franchise. We're shipping parcel post the bodies to Vital Med. So Vital Med basically was a dumping ground. And there were a few other abortion clinics. There were a couple of clinics from Milwaukee, the Summit Clinic, the Metropolitan Medical Services Clinic, where ironically we would do sidewalk counseling at these clinics.
But they were coming from all kinds
all
of
over, yeah.
North Carolina, Indiana.
They were coming from Indiana, North Carolina, Wilmington, Delaware, Fargo, North Dakota, Chicago, Milwaukee. Yeah, they were coming from a lot of different places. And Fairfield, New Jersey. And how do we know? How do we know where they were coming from? Because literally they were in the boxes with the shipping label from the the address of the clinics where they were coming from. I have to tell your audience, I saved the boxes. I still have them. I won't throw them out. To me, they're like relics. I can't throw the boxes out. So I took photographs of all the boxes because eventually they're going to disintegrate or who knows what's going to happen to them. But so they're preserved in photographs. But these were their cradles. The only cradles that these babies ever knew. So
we just have 2 minutes left.
Yeah.
And recently, the programs, for instance, I'm telling you, are available on our website for you. Just go out to the homepage and you'll see them there. You can click on them. You can begin to watch them. You made a statement in the interview that we did on your book, and you made a statement that the last of the corporal works of mercy, as they're listed for us, right?
Right.
Is to bury the dead.
The last one is to bury the dead.
Yeah. And you said that when all of you buried these babies, it was the first
work of mercy that they would know was
that they would know
that they would be buried.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
What a compelling statement that is, Monica.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we end this, I want to ask people to pray for us in Michigan, please.
Yes.
We are facing a very radical pro-abortion ballot referendum in the November 8th election. Please pray for us. We need to defeat this referendum, which could make abortion legal in Michigan for the full 9 months of pregnancy.
That's right up until the moment of birth. Heinous,
Yeah.
heinous, brutal, barbarian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Monica,
you.
for all that you have done.
Thank you, Johnette.
And you know, be assured of my continued prayers for you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know that all of our viewers will be continuing to pray for you as well. Friends, the book's available at EWTN's Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. Abandoned: The Untold Story of the Abortion Wars and the Authority of Women in the Catholic Church. God bless you now. Bye-bye.